Yo, you know what's so funny is I'm staying in this place right now and it's probably less than a 20 by 20 box and it has a full bath. I wish the shower actually closed so it doesn't rain. But anyways, I'll give you a little tour tomorrow, but you know what I was thinking to myself is even this much space is like a lot of space. You know, the living room's a complete trash loss of room, like it's all centered around the TV. When will people finally give up this bullshit ass TV trend? Okay. I feel like there's an untapped real estate market potential here, okay, where you just stage a house that doesn't even have a TV. And I think what it'll do is it basically becomes a new rec area, recreational use. Um, and you could do something a little more interesting than a sofa and vegetating. If you like plants, have a bunch of plants there, put a chair in the middle where you could read a book. Like why make it less sterile and homogeneous. You know, if you like to fight, I mean, I don't know how you would logistically put a boxing bag in the middle of the room, but you could definitely do like a wrestling mat, and when you're bored at home, you just practice moving, um, you know, because moving around is your thing. I love to do that. I love to get low on the ground and just do weird motions and to feel various parts of my body like activate and stretch and feel every muscle fiber, and it's like you don't even have to lift crazy. I have this theory where um you don't need to do powerlifting moves ever. I have a sneaking suspicion, guys, that powerlifting is um one of the gayest psyops of the fitness industry. And then the second runner up is gym equipment, like chest press and things like that. I'm sorry to say it, it's just a fact. And if you're gonna be like, oh, you can't get gains the same way if you don't use dumb, machines, you know? And it's like, no, I think dumbbells is all you need. And you need a culture that isn't just focusing on powerlifting moves and do more calisthenic type of dumbbell stuff, you know? Today I was basically pushing a sled and I tried like five different ways to push a sled. Oh, I know the real way is to straighten your back and put your arms straight out and like use full range of motion and just push the thing, like you're like a bull or a Superman or something, okay? But you know what's also fun is like using the worst posture possible and like pulling it backwards with like zero weight. You still activate a different set of muscles and it feels great, you know? And it's like, you know, and this probably won't make sense to most people. Just my high IQ take, okay? What if, right? What if all of these cuz like they say yoga is like satanic worship to some degree, right? If you start worshiping yoga as a way of enlightenment, that becomes satanic and inverted, right? Whereas if you use yoga as a tool to keep yourself in shape and agile and mobile so you can glorify God, I think you take what is potentially hell and you turn it into something really useful. Now, yoga is not about just rotating through the poses. It's about holding certain positions and slowly increasing um that leverage on certain joints and things like that. Like for example, I mean, I don't know if I could do it right now, but I'll give it a shot. Like if you're standing, okay, and you put your leg out, okay? Like now I'm not that I don't know how much leg I want to show, but okay. Right? Now you could right here, this is the most I could do. I feel a muscle right here that sorely needs working on, and I feel the same almost on the opposite side. So, and this is almost like a sidekick, right? And I also think body back training is great because you know, like how when you end a massage, like the Asian lady always taps your that like your joint, and it's to get the lymphatic system essentially moving. So that's basically what she's doing, um, and it's like throwing a couple kicks against a wall is also kind of feels really really good. Like it just scratched the itch that my body was needing for like months and if not years. Okay, and you can go to all of these like rehab video doctor guys and they're like this muscle and that and do you stretch it this way and blah blah blah. And dude, I think this is just like it's just another flavor of gay physical therapy. You know, granted, when you're older, you need physical therapy, but the reason why you need physical therapy when you're older is because you're not taking care of your body, right? And so it falls apart. And then now you're fighting the clock and trying to salvage what you can in your dying age. That's basically what physical therapy is. I hate to break it to you guys, but that is what that industry is. I think that industry has no place among healthy young people. That's just, I think that's just a fact. I think another fact is supplements are completely stupid and gay. All of them. I mean, you could make an argument for whey protein, but when I was in India, they were saying that protein powder is cheating in India. Okay, because you would not normally consume that much protein. Um, it's like a protein shock to your body. You know, there's probably a rise of like needing kidneys. Okay, um, how much protein can you eat? And then if you supplement with powder, it's just not possible. Like I'm telling you, if you eat a really balanced meal and you want to maintain a certain muscle mass, I don't think it's really tough. Let's just put it that way. If you don't use any supplement, you have to basically automatically add one more meal, and the more in shape you get, you have to add one or two more meals. So like normally you would eat 3 times a day, maybe 2 times a day, right? 2 times a day if you're not working out and you don't have a labor job, you should eat twice a day. If you have a labor intensive job, then you should eat 3 times a day. Now, if you have a labor intensive job and you're trying to maintain a physique, you're probably eating four. And then if you're going to like the low body fat and really aesthetic look, that's like 5 meals. Okay. Um, and if you skip on protein powder, you will automatically add the carbs and fat and it'll ruin that balance that's needed. That's what I mean. Try it. I mean, but I don't want to get too off track. So, fitness is definitely a thing. I think there's a big scam. I'll kind of show you one day, guys, what I do at the gym. I mean, look at this physique right now. I mean, it's not great. I hate to break it to you. Like, if you think I look in shape, it's first of all, it's all of it is the lighting. Now, if I just did core day, my core is probably sitting a little tight, and it's like, oh, he's got 6 packs. I'm like, no, dude, this is actually fat. But I have some muscle underneath, so it's showing. And also, by the way, these past 2 days, when I got here, I had like a gut. I'm not even kidding. Like, it was like, I mean, I still do have a gut. It's not like it went away, but like, it was like that. Like, like when you sit, I was feeling it resting on my fupa. Okay. I've basically just been walking everywhere, and 20-minute walk to the gym is kind of what I do. Maybe 15 minutes coming back, going to a restaurant, groceries. It's crazy. No, it sucks that this city here has basically turned into a car hellhole. Um, and it's kind of weird how this is all flowing really well here right now. But yeah, so I'm living in this city. Maybe I'll reveal it one day. Right now, I just don't want to. Um, but so I'm living in this city, and for okay, I'm just gonna start off with some of the things that's like a tragedy, right? Um, Anytime I see a hospital or a pharmaceutical company, guys, I'm just like, let's do a moment of silence for what was lost here. Every time I see it, man, like it's not good. I hate to see big medical centers. It pisses me off. And it's funny because I'm walking around the city and certain roads where there's a lot of traffic running through, it's just it's just such unclean, dirty, nasty air. Okay? It's disgusting. Um I think in America the cities are similar, but I think the cars are moving way faster for you to almost get a whiff of their stench, you know? Because you're covering more ground and there's like a wind, like a little thing that's like basically mixing it up with the air. Um, I think the air pollution in cities that are not in America are just disgusting. Not saying that the American cities are doing a better job, but it's way better, dude. It's almost like I'll make an argument for electric vehicles. Everyone who's bitching about electric cars need to shut the fuck up. You have no idea what you're talking about. Okay? Where gas vehicles will be reasonable, there will be gas vehicles because that area needs it. But electric vehicles are an amazing solution for cities, dude. Okay, first of all, so many cameras, you could, you know, have way better self-driving, right? That's where you'd want self-driving in a congested city area. In the open road where you have fresh air, you'd be a fag to have self-drive. Okay, you should be rolling down the windows, catching the air, breathing it in, okay? Almost like sports cars don't there's an awesome balance to this, by the way. No straight man is going to have an electric car and be like, you know, how can I say this? No man's gonna have an electric car and uh like view it as a flex, right? You need to have that gurgle and the engine. And so why would you have a sports car in a fucking city, you retard? You should have it in the countryside. Right? It's funny how just using a tool objectively correctly automatically solves the issue, and it's really not that bad at the end of the day. Oh yeah, they're gonna control where you go. That is an issue. I mean, but realistically, dude, I think it's an inevitable thing, right? And I think it's gonna be there in like 20 years, maybe 30 years tops. Okay, I think they're trying to import. They're building certain areas of the world with a lot of technology. They've been test running the effectiveness on creating um law abiding workers, right? Because we know that at the top tier of politics is all corruption, but that's never going away. So if everyone's going to be poor, you might as well live in a place where you can enforce the removal of violent and petty crime, okay? So, I am all for total surveillance in cities. Do you think it's going to be, I mean, yeah, it's inevitable one day the countryside is going to have cameras everywhere, right? There's an inevitability to this. Um, but it's like, do you, you know, how can I say this? It's like, I don't know. I mean, I just don't see it as a negative outcome for society to have total surveillance. I'm sorry, I don't. Nobody's gonna be like, "Oh, your credit score is dropped. You must enter the suicide pod now." That's not happening, right? Like you would need such a numb human civilization to not realize that that is happening and that needs to be stopped. So it's not gonna be like an overt KO, right? And people who value good things will limit their exposure to cities as much as possible, right? And so entering the hellhole to maintain integrity, this is like the plot of Ong Bak, right? But you just bump it up to the modern world. It's like a dude living in the suburbs has to go into the city for work to make enough money to buy a house to eventually get out of the city. That's like the modern Ong Bak. Okay, back in the day, I'm sure you could go in there and throw some flying knees at some niggas and solve the world's problems. Okay. you know, People were just like, you try to do that today, like you'll find yourself dead really fast. you know, um, but I don't mind it. And so I'm noticing this digital ID thing everywhere. Every time you go somewhere to shop, they always ask for your fucking ID or your thumbprint to get in. The thumbprint into the gym or the facial recognition to get through the gym thing is wild. It's wild. I can't believe that they this is just like normal society. Okay? Everybody knows w- what the fuck is going on with this stuff. And I think it's going to be like hellish, dude, going into the future. Could you imagine banking fraud on a level with digital ID? Like the amount of things that people could lose in a digital second. Um, I think that level of crime has not yet been understood. Okay. Um. Anyways, so we have this roadmap that I have to make and show you guys, but I don't care to do that right now. Here's here's another thought I had. I'm living in this city right now, and I'm still like, dude, I want to go to a place where they don't even really have AC, you know? Like I want to be in like almost a jungle and go live there. Okay, where you could have like a farm and you could maintain some animals and you got to do manual labor. And you can or you don't have to. Like choose to be a Vietnamese rice farmer is like my goal, but I wish that was possible in South America. you know? But if I go to like Vietnam, um fine. You know what the issue right now is actually happening is a lot of these cool places that I would want to go and be a remote farmer somewhere is being completely like eviscerated with crime and drugs pouring in, and these areas are and by the way, that's like a mechanism of gentrification, right? Like you take a rural area, what will break rural people? Violence and drugs. And then as those numbers dwindle and people flee, people start selling. There aren't people willing to buy the farms. So you start putting neighborhoods up and you start enforcing crime again. And it's like, you know, it's within a certain proximity to a city center. And then, you play this little game of like leapfrog where you probably have a city, then like a neighborhood pocket, then more commerce, then neighborhood pocket. And like that's just how you like play the game of like forcing economy, right? And that happens all the time. Um, I don't know. I mean, there's no way Vietnam doesn't have its own drug problem, right? I just feel like, you know, dude, I want to live where I have like two shirts for the gym, one or two like going outfits. I mean, I packed like 5 pairs of clothing when I left, and it's like I don't want anything more. I'll never go into a store and be like, oh, let me upgrade my wardrobe. If it doesn't fit in a suitcase, then I don't need it. And I'm going to wear it until it becomes unwearable. And I'm going to maintain it as much as I can. So the shirts I have are here to last for years. And I'm just not going to buy another article of clothing. You know, it's fascinating to me how people just don't, and this kind of ties into like the immigration issue in America right now, because they need to prop up so much of the economy because too many people are consuming. People on one side want to bitch about car prices, but they obviously price it in a way that people are still going to be willing to pay for it. Okay, Why don't you put your money where your mouth is and carpool between three families? I don't want to hear fucking excuses. Why don't more people just get scooters? Why do you have to have a massive vehicle? You stupid fuck. Crackheads are right, man. When they rig their own electric bike and they're just cruising downtown, strung on drugs or on their way back to the crib to drink their pack of beer, believe it or not, that dude has made a higher IQ move than you have by owning a car. The most you need is to put groceries. I mean, are you transporting 3 to 4 people all the time? And when you leave the house, do you really need more than two people going somewhere? You know, like it's fascinating to me, um, how and then it's like by the way, this is why they import immigrants, because they'll go into debt. They have more taxes, they'll go into debt, and you can cherry pick the region where they're coming from. And so why they're choosing India right now? Because Indians are willing to um submit to digital ID. That's why. It's just that simple. They don't care. Fine, track me. It's funny because I think that's a level of meekness that people don't understand. These Christians are just alarming the bell. Oh, the end is near, blah, blah, blah. I feel like they've been doing that forever. And it's actually kind of like a toxic culture. So what? Your king wants to have cameras. Know your place. You, cashier. You, serviceman. You know? Your job is like, you're not producing anything. You, paper pusher. Your king wants you to be surveilled. Okay, let him. Make him feel comfortable. Why not? Maybe if his mind is at ease, instead of the people, why don't they want to be surveilled? What are they plotting? Right? You don't think people in power are always um and we're not even talking about governor, you know what I mean? Like people who own the world, you don't think they're concerned about maintaining control over areas that they've developed for hundreds of years with their family fortunes? People whose names that you don't even know. And it's not to like mystify them, to make them into mystics and like Voldemorts, but like, dude, just give it up, man. Like it's happening one way or another. You'd rather. I can't believe Americans are bitching about all of the AI facilities going up. It's like, okay, if you don't want it there, then where do you want it? Right? You want it in China, you stupid fuck? You want them to build the data centers in India that control the world's information? That shit will be stolen and scammed and sold, and the amount you want it in the heart of America, you know? I mean, I can't believe people don't see the insane contradiction. You import Indian tech guys to go and work on building the digital infrastructure of total surveillance AI, you know? And you don't see the potential security flaw there is, you know, but I feel like, people didn't step up to it. They sat there and they just whined and complained and bitched. And, at some point, you as the ruler of an area would be like, dude, these people suck. They just complain all the time. Like, look at this area. They're this whole area. Like, dude, so I visited where my dad grew up. That whole city is centered around people going to nursing school there, and then they basically get adopted into another country, right? Like certain governments adopt them. They're like, hey, we have a bunch of aging white people that just couldn't stop fucking consuming and are no service to people, and they're whining and complaining. We need like nurses here, you know and then they move them over there. I would say it's like you'd rather an Indian nurse than like an African one, because those have been notoriously known to like beating the shit. No, actually, no. I think Haitian nurses, there's just like a obvious trend where they just beat the shit out of the people they're taking care of, and it's like crazy that they would do something like that. The amount of elderly abuse that's happening in nursing homes is wild. Okay, it's like your job is to serve this person. That's why you're here, and it sucks because it has to be done in like this secular format, right? Where the nursing home is the distributor and provider of the service. Whereas if you have a home, they should just come to your home or your apartment or something, and like it's almost like making an argument for like we should add a little bit more slaverism back into the system. Like it should, if you have money in America, you should be able to just go to an agency and be like, okay, here's 10 grand, and here's proof that I'll be able to pay them. Here's where they're going to stay. I need them to do this task for me, right? You can take a cut, the other guy can, it's like, and you should just be able to bring people in, and they're your responsibility. If they go AWOL, you're going to be in big trouble, right? And that is like the grassroots of a better society versus corporate overlords importing a bunch of people to fill up apartment buildings, to prop up, real estate markets and sales teams and road development and all. It's like a runaway train of, you know I mean, look, if I was in charge, I would do a lot of things differently. But this secular approach to just money on money is like a wild phenomena that I just don't know like why people can't stop that. And like if happiness doesn't come from material, I don't know how much to explain this. It's like it comes from faith in God and struggling to do the right thing and being happy with what you have and being grateful for your life. Like that's all you really need, is grateful that you have one more day of breathing, because like you're going to miss this place I think when you leave this area. Like if you're a good person and you're going to go to heaven or good karma and you're going to transcend or something, okay? Um I think you're going to miss this place. And maybe you choose to come down to earth and to live a life again. Maybe, I don't know. But, the material thing, man, is it's just wild, bro. Um, so yeah, I mean, long format. I want to go to a place that has less consumerism. The fact that I'm a 15-minute walking distance to a mall is actually not that fun to me. Um, and by the way, it's like so many things, like, I was pushing the sled the other day and I was like, this is a really fun way to stay active. Dude, what if I had a field to plow every day and I could just go there and just plow, and like I didn't over cultivate the area, so I had these massive trees providing nice shade, and like you're just plowing the field to plant food to eat later when it harvests. And like, if you fuck up, you could just go down to some grocery store and buy your groceries for the day. Don't really have a fridge. Just go get your groceries fresh every day. Um, walk those miles, you know? And it's like you can afford that lifestyle. It's really cheap to live that poor, by the way. You know what I mean? Like it's really, really cheap to live poor. Um, more people should do it. It's so much freedom. I mean, if you have, the growing being raised in America and then going through a truther journey, you have a level of wisdom and IQ, and I shit you not when I'm saying this. You have a level of wisdom and IQ that is unparalleled. unparalleled, okay, in like the whole world. You can, there's people out there in poor countries. Man, my pores, I got to do something about my pores, man. This city smog, I think is really bad for my skin. Um, you can go, it's like, there are people who are sitting there and smoking cigarettes still in poor countries. You know, imagine being in America and vaping and smoking cigarettes. Like, you think your life is stressful, you weak, pathetic sack of shit? Imagine not being able to control the food you eat. Like, what are you, a fucking retard? Like, what life are you living, bro? Okay, you know it's a sin and you know you can't stop. Maybe you should move to a place that doesn't have that available. The next time you gotta buy a Three Musketeers bar or some shit, you gotta walk 20 miles to like a convenience store, gas station. It's like there's one restaurant in the area and it's like a 10-minute walk. Like, I'm saying go that remote, okay? I think that is like the answer, by the way, because I don't care for a car. I like okay, it's like, oh, you're fortunate enough to not need to drive to work. I know people who live in a place so they could walk to work. Like, they're mechanics, and so they're like, I'll just walk to work. It's like a 20-minute walk every day, which allows me to stay in shape, and I'll just do hours there and it pays food and that's it. Chill dudes. There isn't like a big need for money or greed or anything. They're just chill. They're having a good time. Granted, everyone's got money problems, right? It's just like, I don't know. I mean, it's wild, bro. Um, and I know this person in like, oh, that example. I know this person in real life, and like they want to live that life, but yet they don't exercise and they train to fight, and then that person got injured in a sparring match with a friend and tore his knee or something. Okay. Um, and like that's, I don't know, man. Like, it's like you can't afford that. You should be doing more productive things with your time. I got a buddy down the street where I live. He just welds things and like makes um like he's just welding. That's his thing. Like, that's wild, bro. You know? He welds these cool tools and contraptions, and he basically you know he uses it to sell on Facebook Marketplace. How cool is that? In his free time, that's what he's working on. That's sick. Hopefully he really loves it, because it's way better than sitting on a computer or on social media and just rotting away. At least that you're making a couple extra bucks, you know? And there's people that would view that as like, oh, he's hustling. It's like, nah, dude, you're just producing. Every moment you breathe, you have a chance to produce something. So what's the point of sitting there and consuming, you know? The fingerprint stuff's crazy, man, in this city. I just don't know the face scanning fingerprint. I wish people understood the reality of what that really is. But hell, maybe that is one of the key reasons why this place is so extremely safe, because they have the technology. So that kind of makes it really easy to enforce certain behaviors, including immediately pushing certain types of crime way out into the outskirts. And as long as the people demand it, like, the people of Colorado, they want decriminalization of all sorts of drugs. They want that. So the city has to allow that. But there's a nature of that business where you have to kind of make it so you got to be able to afford to open up a store, because that, filters the product through government regulation. Whereas a dude selling it on the street, you can't regulate that, you know? And yeah, it's a tool of control and making sure you profit, but why not? But you're ensuring safety. Imagine what the world would be if anybody could make a car and just drive on the road and there was no license plates. First of all, if there were no license plates, um, you know, you would be basically you'd be screwed. People would steal your car, drive it to another part of the world, sell it right away. You should be happy about the DMV because people are willing to spend more on cars and they're willing to lose. The DMV is being forced in a position by the insurance companies to profit off of that. You know, if people got more scooters or e-bikes, imagine an entire city area just being squeezed economically to the point where everyone is just using e-bikes. You know what I mean? Like there is a certain amount of um insane beauty how beautiful cities would be if there were no more cars. 15-minute cities seem like a heaven. Any city. Okay, granted, some cities is 15 minutes driving. The more dense it is, right? It's 15 minutes by walking. That is, guys, that's the right amount of time you need if weather is shitty to be exposed to it. Like if it's really bad, 5 minutes max, but then don't live there if you can't, you know, suffer that weather, right? But 10, 15-minute walk to where you have to go, no cars. The streets are repurposed into like trees, and there's only certain roads which are basically bringing in products from outside into in for you to utilize. And we lower the consumerism when it comes to clothing and first of all, the car thing is a problem. It changes the layout of the city. Okay, you would have more small niche shops. Like if you have 15-minute cities, then technically some places you could have suburb shops again. That's actually something America desperately needs. If you go to poorer countries, if you don't know this, people usually run businesses out of the front of their stores to sell to people, right? Sell them goods. In India, for example, sometimes what they'll have is in front of your house will be like a shed, like a really small, like people probably used to live there back in the day, but now it's like a 4x8 rusted aluminum paneling um propped up on a stick as like a roof to and it's like that guy's welding iron gates, you know and it's like, yeah, there's like 50 iron gates guys within 15 walking okay, maybe not 50, but like a good 4 of them probably within a good 15-minute walking radius of you. Okay, and those guys know each other. And so you'd be like, oh, give me a certain ornament. Maybe some guy somewhere over there might have it, and you could give him a call, and you know what I mean? Like, or take the little moped and go zoom, zoom, and go check it out if he has it there and come back and tell you it's good. Maybe all the welding guys hang out at night. They all walk 40 minutes, um, and they meet up somewhere, right? Maybe they're all extended family. That's why they all meet up every day in the evening time. They go walk 20, 30, 40 minutes and they all hang out. It's like that seems like a heaven. Why don't people want to adopt that? You have to start producing. If you had a production culture, right? If your neighbor's into pottery, the other neighbor loves birds, the other guy's into growing tomatoes, you know, and you all hang out, how much fun would that be? You could come up with your own culture. You could be like, oh, who can train the parrot to grab the tomato and put it in the pot? And it's like, imagine this region of the world is known for taming X animal to like do a certain task in like a fun way, you know? That's where all of this culture comes from. And it's funny because, in my last episode, if you watched it, I did talk about this culture thing. Here we go. Okay. You see how this lady is like doing this bamboo thing? You know what made this all stupid is the insanely ornamental clothing is kind of what made this stupid. I'm not gonna lie. Like it went way too national, dude. This like bamboo surfing, it got caught way too big into the culture that you're wearing this stupid clothing and doing that act. I don't know. That's just my theory. Because this clothing is not functional on your normal day. And interestingly enough, probably women dressed more like this out in public too. If you were a conservative woman and you didn't want to induce lust in men, to minimize it as much as possible, you would do these things. And funny enough, in doing these things, your skin would stay fairer. This is why men are usually like darker than the women, right? Because they're out in the sun doing the work. A woman's always a little bit lighter. In most cultures around the world, the light skin thing is actually uh it's it's sought after because you know y- it means you're out in the sun less, so laborers are darker. So that's places like in India. It's actually inverted, right? Where being lighter skinned is the beauty standard. And so the darker you are, the less attractive you are. And I think that is to some degree kind of true. I'm not going to lie. Um, but I also think being paler than normal is also kind of disgusting, you know? And so being a certain level of tan, I think, is the right way to go, just in my opinion. Um, but like in colder places, being more tan is more valued, right? I mean, it just looks more vibrant. People spend more time out in the sun when they can. Um, but I don't know how I got into this tangent about this. Yeah, like this culture is like, how does it evolve into this cool thing? You know, like I don't know, dude. I think producing is the only cure to this world, and there's no mad like you don't have to educate the world about vaccines. Like it's not gonna change. I mean, it will, but the conclusion is you have to go to a more natural life is the conclusion. Okay, I just think so. I mean, there's enough modern medicine that we have. There really is that we're going into this inverted thing where we can solve a lot of diseases. Okay, a lot of diseases may be a lifetime of suffering to reverse, or you could just numb your body and just continue on with your life while you can, right? That's what happens when you're older. When you're like 60, 70, 80, it's like you ain't curing this. Take some drugs, be happy, go on with your day in life. Okay? Now, the issue here is that, you know, I don't know. I mean, I just don't get how people don't think. Dude, wouldn't it be cool to be like, because like think about India and cows. First of all, I think calling them holy is really disrespectful, actually. I think, I'll tell you a quick story. I was in India and my mom wanted me to feed some cows because I wanted to get some blessing from the cow. Okay. And it's funny because what about the poor person that's living a completely miserable and shit life? You fed the cow one day and you think you're going to receive blessing from it? Like, that's like, what are you, stupid? You think the cow is fucking holier than the human being that is owning the cow? You're fucking stupid. You should just pay the guy, buy more of his product, okay? Um, and it's funny because I think at some point, if you're dumb and you're the guy who owns the cows and society is really putting you up on a pedestal, I think you'll come up with a lot of stupid and retarded theories about as to why the cow is so holy, right? And that's basically like your spiritual theft in remote villages where they're like, "Oh, the cow is holy." And it's like, "Bro, you're making your people drink cow piss. Like, do they really have to drink cow piss and throw cow shit to like realize that, hey man, they're being a little subverted here. That local priest is telling them a lot of stupid shit. Oh, there's health benefits, dude. You can do a research into anything and find the health benefits of anything and the health downsides to everything, right? It's because it's a faith-based thing. You know, science is about reproduction of experimentation. If you are not physically doing the experiment yourself to verify it, you have now made it into a religion. So by the okay, like I'll just go into this real quick. So you have something called primary witness, right? This is like in law. This applies everywhere, by the way. If you didn't literally witness the thing yourself, you cannot testify to it, which makes it hearsay. Okay? Now, here's the other thing. It's like in science, you're supposed to test everything and prove it in order to know if the observation is correct to then attach it to your scientific worldview. And the reason why I say that is because if you're doing any type of experimentation, like, oh, I want to fix the oil in my car, you're doing a bunch of science. First, you're observing a bunch of people who have done oil changes. All right. And as you're watching them, you're like, hey, it seems like you need this tool. You got to get to this part. You got to have like this accessory, you know, like a pan or something. And you got to have this material oil to replace it. Right? Because if you don't, the engine will blow up. So you got to put the engine back in. The old oil looks like this, blah blah blah. And then you go and you do it, and you're like, yes, this is how you. Until you do the oil change, you haven't done science. You've just done research. You've just done theory. You should not base your worldviews on theories. That's why conspiracy theories are really, really dangerous because people build worldviews on assumptions, and it slowly creates a level of cognitive dissonance and inability to function in society. Okay, I know a lot of people who make all sorts of claims about things and they're stupid, you know? Um, and smart people too, by the way. Um, in the Bible, that would be calling bearing false witness, right? In journalism, it's called primary or secondary sources. Primary has to have witnessed it. And by the way, they'll say scientific journals are considered primary, which is I think a lie that they've done to manipulate people because you could lie about the scientific journal. So it's actually technically secondary, right? If you just take the biblical approach about witness, bear no false witness, um, you know, if you haven't witnessed it yourself, you can't attest to its legitimacy. And that's kind of how law operates as well, right? Law tries to be kind of biblical in that sense. Um, I would say people who you've seen do things and people who you've vetted through years of their philosophy and testimony and you've seen that they're trying to be as honest as possible, and you should still have some doubt, right? So that makes it like 1.5 in terms of like straight to the source, right? It's close enough. But realistically, everything else is secondary, and you should just completely throw it out the window. In this day and age, there's too much misinformation, too many false conclusions. Throw out every single secondary piece of information. Just because a doctor tells you something, or a therapist, or a cashier, it's like, dude, imagine trusting a car salesman with the shit they say. It doesn't make any sense, right? Um, yeah, it's wild. I think in programming, this would be like, um, if you create a static or an instance of a variable. So like static means you add x to a certain value. Like you define x and you add x, and you can add x from anywhere and it'll change that value and it doesn't shift. But if you create an instance, you have to reference the instance, and then the variable. So like, chair dot x is equal to 4, chair 2 dot x is equal to 3 is different than x is equal to 2, x is equal to 3. I mean, if you're a programmer, you get what I'm saying. Um, it's really not that complicated, um, but it's everywhere. So like, don't take anyone's word for it. And by the way, yeah, I think that's about everything. I was gonna go into another tangent here, but I didn't really have it. Oh, I'll end on this. This is the problem about learning too many things, okay? Is you have a lot of worries. The more things you know, the more you're stressing. Okay, I'll tell you an example. Right now in America, I mean it's not don't take my word for it. Don't worry about it. Okay, those are two things I'm gonna preface this. So the school districts have been selling more bonds. They've been basically going bankrupt into debt to quote do education stuff. This is why Democrats love education. It's a liberal thing because it's a big steal of money. It's massive, massive corruption because anyone conservative knows smaller schools, less teachers, less subjects, less sports. The students aren't learning anyways, but we gotta trim all the fat. You don't need history. You don't like people aren't even learning to read or do math. That's the only two things you should really teach them. And then in high school, you should be teaching them skills and not about like metamorphic rock or some shit. Okay? If you want to learn about that, that's now accessory. You should be learning how to make AI. Just because you dissected a frog in biology class, you fucking psychopath, doesn't make you smart. Okay? You should learn how to make AI, edit videos, fix cars, grow food, create circuitry. These are the top, sew clothing, make shoes. These are the only skills you should learn in school, right? It's funny because then they can sell it back to you while you chase meaningless job and fictitious money system. I mean, dude, it's wild. It's wild as to how much people are in this spell of materialism and they can't see out of it, right? Um, but it's like, so the school systems are massively in debt. Dude, my nose is so itchy, bro. It's so bad. Um, and so what's basically happening is that huh, okay. So what basically is happening right now is that property taxes are going to keep rising because the local governments and the school systems now. It's not just local governments, but it's local governments and the school systems are massively millions and millions and millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars into debt. Teacher retirement funds have gone crazy with the theft, dude. Okay. Where I'm living in Florida, all of those nice apartment buildings are owned by like the teachers union, and they're basically developing the city. Isn't it ironic? You teach the kids nothing, they go to through the college system, they try to get a job somewhere in the city in which they're housed there, and you're extracting them premium dollar to quote fund retirement and all of this, and it's like, what are we doing? This has to stop, right? So Governor DeSantis is like, we're gonna cover all of your taxes except school, which I think is a shame because I think the local school districts are going to become the new tyrants because they're getting all the money. And more people need to fight about school problems now rather than governmental problems. Can you imagine how they've dissected us to the point in which I think the future battle in America is going to be over the schooling system and it's going to be held over the people's heads? The future of their children is now the battleground of what subjects to teach and blah blah blah, and there's just so many stupid people wanting sports and gender education, and they think it's a school's responsibility to feed the kids as if that's society's burden, and to some degree I think it is, but then the food that they're getting is shit. Like, what are we doing here? But DeSantis is trying to get rid of property taxes except local school. Now, if it doesn't pass, I'm going to tell you something. It's over. It's over. It's over for Florida if it doesn't pass. And I think a lot of other states are looking to Florida to see if it is going to be passed so that they can have the courage to bring it to their own districts as well. Um, because you know, there's only so many, I don't know if you know this, but there's only so many states in all of America that are not in debt. So when you see a rich guy in, let's say, Pennsylvania or New Jersey or California, it is not the same as a rich guy in like Tennessee or Florida. Maybe, I don't know if Texas is in debt or not. It might not be because it's such a massive state. And it has ports on both sides, you know? So, it might not be. Um, but Texas rich is rich, you know what I mean? But like, some states that are barely in debt, like, I don't know, flyover states. A rich guy there is like a guy with a $30,000 car is a rich guy in town. So, that's what I mean by the wealth is not the same, you know? And those guys don't know that they're already leveraged. That might be the situation why Texas had to do that, by the way, because they're trying to create an AI data spine up New Jersey, up the Mississippi, basically, right? And um, all those areas are going to need workers to build the AI data centers. That's just a fact. Um, you know, more people should learn how to do that work and be happy with less pay, I guess, and live smaller. And it's funny because that makes Republican people like angry. But I don't think it's that bad. I really don't. I mean, if you watch my last video, I mean, what else do you need money for? To put food on the table? Well, grow where you could live where you could grow a lot of it and share with your neighbors. And then that solves that problem, you know? It's like you if you need a new shirt, it should be like a 40-minute drive to like a mall where like you're gonna check all of the stores to see if any one of them is worth purchasing one shirt from, you know? And even then, why would you shop at a mall now that you could check on the internet and have something delivered to your house for free by Amazon over $35 purchase? I mean, what's the point of a city center? All you need is a remote warehouse and like flying drones and self-driving trucks to a certain degree, that is the supply chain system for the whatever your material desires are. Imagine robots are making all of that. Oh, you want a new sofa? A robot will make it. Does that sound that bad to you? Oh yeah, you're gonna pay for it, obviously. But like, how many sofas do you need? Realistically, here's a little catch: zero. In fact, all of your furniture should just be really soft pillows near the floor and a really soft, nice carpet where you guys just hang out all day. Okay? Do you need a bed? You should be sleeping on the floor. Like, you don't even need a bed. The right way to live is to sleep on the floor. Like, go ahead, test me on any one of these things. I think I'm right. A bed is for somebody who is on their deathbed. That's why it's like the he's on his deathbed. What does that mean? That's the bed he's gonna die on. It's his, it's like a stage in life. A deathbed in a hospital is a hellish place to stay. I think a deathbed in your home is the right way to go. You should not be dying at a hospital. Your last breath should be taken at home. I think at some point you just have to like let somebody go and that's it. Like why call the ambulance and die on the route or we're gonna get you better, blah blah blah. It's like, dude, relax. You're dying, be chill. Think about all the happy times in the world that you've had and all of the struggles, and it's all behind you now. You get to go back and meet your maker and you can discuss the story of your life and see where, the fuck ups and the everything and see where it needs to go, you know? It's like, dude, I think hippies are onto it, man. The problem with hippies, man, is that they don't believe in God and they're too much of this universe shit. But a hippie Christian is like my vibe, plants and God. you know? But it's funny because you can't really get that in America. You can't get small living, small farm agrarian lifestyle. You really can't. Um, it's like that kind of lifestyle is like out in the boonies and like they're guaranteed on meth. I don't know if that's the case all around the world, but there has to be a place where I could live where that is a reality, you know? It costs way too much money to try to achieve that in America, I think. And let me just clarify, in a tropical weather environment. I'm a tropic weather guy. I need sunshine. I love the rain. I love the rain. Like, dude, the idea of like a monsoon seems like a blast to me, dude. Like that is where my people are from. To me, that's like heaven. I love thundering and rain, and I love the sun. I cannot take cloudy weather for shit. I don't hate the snow. I don't I'm neutral on the snow. Uh a non-windy day of snow is also very blissful because 30 degrees is not actually that cold. Like you could be out in your shorts on a day it's snowing, as long as there isn't like a wind chill factor. That ain't my climate, dude. I do not do windy, snowy weather. People love that. People love that cold. Um, you know, but I don't I'd rather a hurricane than a blizzard. I don't mind a blizzard after the fact. But what am I mean, dude, this isn't the opinion show here. I mean, granted a lot of this is all of my opinions, but like who gives a fuck about what weather I like? Yeah. Um yeah, so that's today's episode. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a couple of more regimented videos to upload about certain topics. And I might take you guys on a little tour in a couple days about where I'm staying and how I like it or don't like it, and show you guys what it's like, because I know a lot of people can't travel. And a lot of travel people are kind of degenerate or secular in all of their takes, and it's kind of like stupid in my opinion. Um, but it is what it is. Truther.tv, guys. Thanks for watching. See you next time.